Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and with me in the Rabbit Hole studio today, he is an accomplished producer and the director of the new sci-fi indie film 2050, Mr. Princeton Holt. Welcome, Princeton.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, man. Appreciate you schlepping to Brooklyn. We always like it when people come down.
About 5 or 6 stops.
You're a New York boy, right?
Yes,
So,
I am.
you know the neighborhood kind of thing.
I know the hood.
But anyway, thanks for coming down. We covered your film. We covered the opening of 2050.
Right. Great job.
Which was
awesome.
We got to interview you then briefly. So now we get to relax a little bit more,
And
talk a little bit more. But that was a great interview with you interviewed with Ilaria Malvezzi.
You're like 2 minutes. I think you 2-minute clip or something.
Yeah, we did. That's like the industry standard for red carpet, man.
That was right. She just boom, 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 and
Yep.
it was great.
Yeah, well, you were literally running into the theater for the premiere, so we were trying to get everybody. We got a lot of
you
the
got me
actors.
before.
Yeah, we got you just before the
I didn't know
the
that.
opening.
I didn't know that.
You were literally like about to like scoot into the theater when we got you.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about 2050.
Okay.
But first, I want to talk about you and kind of how you got into this mess of filmmaking,
This crazy business.
indie film. So how did you get started? What brought you to filmmaker? What's your origin story, so to speak?
I saw a movie. That's what did it. It's called Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson. And when I saw that movie, I was just in love. But I didn't know what I had seen that first time. I was like, I saw something and it was with me, and so I had to go see it again. I think I drove all the way into the city at the time to see it again. And right after that was it. I enrolled in film school right after, and we've been married ever since.
From then, so the initial inspiration, you got into producing first before you got into directing, or no?
No. I started loving the writing and directing, did that, enjoyed that. But inevitably what happens is if you are a filmmaker, if you're doing you end up doing the producing work yourself anyway, you know? And then you're doing so much producing, and then it just leads, it grows and grows, and your knowledge grows. If you wait to put your project in the hands of a producer that's supposed to raise money, he or she's not working fast enough for you and not unturning every stone, and then you end up doing that.
So you produced and directed your own early films.
Yes,
when you started out.
Of course, I had partners and producing partners. But
Did you start out with features, or you start out with making shorts?
Shorts.
And then we come to 2050, which just came out this year. How did that film sort of come about? This is your brainchild. Am I right? Did you write this as well?
No.
Okay.
The script was written by Brian Ackley,
Okay.
who I produced for plenty of times.
I see. So you already had a relationship there already.
Oh, yeah. We produced a feature. I produced his feature about 3 or 4 years ago. So another feature, low-budget sci-fi movie. And then he wrote this one, and I directed this one.
How did you come to direct it? Was it just kind of you had the vision for it? You had the right sensibility for it?
When the project started out, I knew I was going to direct it. Okay. And then we began raising the money for it. And that was through equity investors, about, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 people. So at that point, I have to direct it, right? I know I'm going to I know as a producer, I trust myself to come in under budget and on time.
Right.
Right. I trust myself to be economical and fast. I work really fast. And so there's that. It's when you have investors, you're responsible for getting the best person for that particular job. And in this case, it happened to be me.
Yeah, I find that happens a lot with certain projects. You're just like, well, I could get somebody else to do it, but if I'm in control of it, I know that I'm going to bring it to fruition the best way possible with the means that I have.
Yeah.
So
producing and directing at the same time is a nightmare.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for anybody doing anything, but to try to do the feature film,
it's a nightmare.
It's a marathon. You know,
I always advise against it. Try your best to get if you're going to direct the movie, get yourself a producer that you trust. You do the producing leading up to it, and then get out of the way and go away and make your shot list. Go listen to your music, go get in your zone, and get prepared.
Be able to be a director.
And for that matter of weeks or days that you're working, you should be, fortunate. I know it's not easy. Fortunate enough to be able to just direct. Brian, who wrote the script for 2050, when I produced his film, I was the producer that I always wanted as a director, where I took care of the schedule. took care of the money. Brian didn't have to do anything but write the script, show up and work, which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But taking the conflicts, I had to fight all the battles, the wounds that you take on every project of annoying situations that don't make any sense that you still have to fix. I got to keep that away from Brian, and I think that's it's a luxury, and I was happy to experience working with somebody who had that luxury. I wish it for myself,
Yeah.
but it's not always that easy.
I feel like a lot of times, and this you find this in not only film but also on television. Like a lot of times, a producer is he's sort of like the goalie, like the hockey goalie between the forces of darkness and the creator.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to put it. Forces of darkness, forces of pure darkness and ego and greed and everything annoying.
Yeah. And just trying to like get that person so that they can do what they need to do, which is hard enough, you know. And then when you have to deal with yourself, like I produced a lot of my own stuff, and you know, I try to keep everything very much to the minimal, like so that I don't have those aches and pains, and I can, and a lot of pre-production too, like make sure that prep is done so that when a time I get on set, I'm not worried about stuff I should have done a month ago.
Sure.
So before we get too into it, we started talking a little bit about the making of it. But for those, we've had Stephanie Bloom on the show, who's great.
Great episode.
She talked a little bit about 2050. But for those who didn't catch that or didn't see the opening coverage, give me like the log line. Give me like a little synopsis of 2050 and what it is.
2050. The new log line is better than the old one. So David wrote the new one. David's my producing partner, and he's the lead actor. I think I want to say it his way. A family man struggling to hold it all together, thinks he has found the solution. ... Sex bots.
So this takes
well done, David.
This takes place in the year 2050 in New York City.
Yeah.
And so you're making this movie, and obviously you've got some challenges just because we don't live in the year 2050.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to speculate, you know, what's happening 30 years from now, and also dealing with things like technology and certain questions. But
sure,
you're working on what I'm assuming is an indie budget.
Oh yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit about the making. For instance, one question I find is very telling that I've asked a lot of my guests who have done features.
Yeah.
How many days did you have to shoot? Shoot it? How many production days?
Great question. 19.
19 in total. So you're going
19 total.
Wow. Okay. So that's not as bad as some of I've heard. We had somebody earlier who said she shot a feature in like 12 days.
I shot a feature once in 4 days.
Oh my God, that's like Roger Corman, man. That's like old school.
And Netflix was calling us. Okay, 4 days. It was improv, 2 takes a piece. That was my shooting ratio was like 2 to 1.
You know, if you're doing it that way, you can shoot quite a bit in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And you know, with this,
but this took 19. It was 19.
Yeah.
I mean, the script.
Well, this is a lot more involved. You know,
I've moved the camera a lot. Jared is Jared Roybal is our DP, and we talked early on to finish your question about the process starting.
Mm-hmm.
Once the money was finally in place, I sat down and I was interviewing DPs, and this was a very special thing. I needed a relationship with the DP. I didn't need somebody who was just gigging. This was a marriage. I had to bond with the DP. I made sure that I bonded with the DP on this one the same way that I make sure that there's a bond with the talent and the actors and myself. There needs to be a trust. But plus, I want to tap into both of our goals, right? And what do we want to try that we haven't done before? So I told him when he saw what I wanted to do with the camera, he was like, I was thinking, it's going to be fast. I'm used to shooting fast. And, you know, I know that I'm on sticks, but, you know, I didn't expect what happened, which is what he said. Hey, Princeton, you're moving the camera on so much of this. And not only that, you're using the dolly a lot. I need somebody to pull focus. I need an AC.
Right.
Hey, budget item, ding. So that's what I'm hearing, the budget item. He goes, furthermore, I need a gaffer, man. I'm like, are you sure? I'm doing a lot of available light. Why do we need a gaffer? He goes, trust me, we need a gaffer. And then he goes, and again, and I'm like, okay, dude, I don't know if this is working. this is going to work. You need too much stuff. He says, I also could use a grip. And I'm like, okay, so basically you need the whole shebang.
He needs a camera crew, obviously.
He needs a crew. For me, I've always found a way to not have to do all those and not have to hire all those to save costs. But he said that the reason was because there's the dolly, because of moving the camera so much. There's the dolly moving, there's the focus pull, and so in general. And then we used the Ronin.
Yeah, yeah.
Shots, and that's the thing is heavy. You know? So you need somebody to pull focus for that, right? So we gave him what he asked for, and he killed it.
Once you decide to move the camera,
yeah,
every time I've ever done that, you start to see that budget sheet go up and up and up, because you need more people, you need more light, you need more time.
Yeah,
because for instance, there's a couple of shots early on in the film that you have. Where you get some really beautiful slow push-ins.
Yeah.
How many rehearsals do you have to do with that dolly to get that nice and smooth? and how many times do they miss the focus, or how many times do you have to
That happens a lot. We shot 235 scope. That was the DP again. That was Jared who says, I think we should shoot 235. Like we were bonded early during the courting period. When the first
I think that fits your sensibility though. I think that wide angle, that anamorphic stuff, that fits it fits the movie, but it also fits like
what I was doing with the camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
because when you do those move-ins and stuff, you have that, and it's nice to see on a big screen.
Yeah,
and fits the fact that you guys are getting the movie theatrically released as opposed to doing everything.
We're going to pay for it on smaller. We'll pay for it a little bit on smaller screens.
Right.
But we took that, But then again, all the Hollywood movies shoot 235.
So why not? There is a cinematic quality to it that says, this is cinema. It's not the stuff. It's not TV.
Okay.
And it looks like a movie.
That was the intention, was a part of that courting process. And one of the first things Jared said is, I think we should shoot 235. And I'm like, ooh, this is a marriage. If that's your first thought as a DP, he wasn't talking about problems that you usually hear. People are like, well, it's going to be a problem. Nah, Jared said, I think we need to shoot 235, and I was like, this is gonna work. And then we challenged each other in terms of look. Maybe your listeners will appreciate this. I saw an interview on a movie, what's the Greta Gerwig movie that she did with?
Lady Bird?
Nope, before that Noah Baumbach did with her.
Oh, Frances Ha.
Yeah. My wife and I went to go see Frances Ha at IFC Theater during the opening.
Mm-hmm.
My wife didn't like it. I loved it. My wife didn't like the character. The character drove her nuts.
Okay.
She said she didn't like the fact that she was so indecisive, and that drove her nuts. She just was a mess. So she didn't like the main character. But I like the black and white cinematography. I'm a big fan of black and white.
Yeah, me too. That was the movie that she wanted to look like Manhattan, like Woody Allen's Manhattan.
Oh, really?
That was the plan, was to make that movie look like Manhattan.
It did.
It had a very similar look.
But this is the conversation. So I saw the movie Frances Ha, and I was listening to the commentary and one of their supplemental materials, and the DP and the colorists were talking, and with Noah, and he said a statement. He said the problem with digital film, with filmmakers, is they're always trying to make it look like reality. They're mimicking reality. The eye is almost, it's a weird instinct, or a weird sort of instinct, or whatever, or calling, or I don't know. People are choosing to mimic reality. And he goes, when we shot celluloid, we had the freedom to make things look any kind of way we wanted. In Technicolor, we played with stuff we wanted to. We went more extreme, and the filmmakers that are working digitally are making things look like reality. And so that's what he said. That's what they were trying to do with Frances Ha, and that stuck with me. So in the conversations with Jared, I said the same thing to him, and I'm like, we can break all the rules here. I don't want anything to look like reality, because it's not yet. Visually.
And that also helps sell the futuristic nature of the movie, because if it looks like right now, then it's not the future. You know what I mean? Like you don't have like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like if you look like classic movies in the same genre, like if you look at something like Blade Runner, Blade Runner does not look like reality.
No.
Nope. nothing is that beautiful in reality. If you watch,
Yeah.
you know, the sequel that they just did, 2049, is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in the theater.
Really?
It's gobsmackingly gorgeous,
Oh, my
especially when
God.
you see it on a big screen.
Yeah.
Life doesn't look like that because it's
No.
not now. It's set, 50 years. It's set 30 years in the future.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
And for the record,
Yeah.
I prefer indie films that are handheld
Mm.
and have a gritty look. That's what I mean. You can't tell from this movie, but if you look at my last film, Ten Commandments of Chloe, you can definitely see I'm a fan of that handheld. I don't think we were that handheld a lot on that, but I'm a fan of gritty, handheld sort of dramas that are tight on the character. I love. There's not my favorite shot in cinema is the handheld close up.
The film, if I would say look wise, I'd say you're a filmmaker who wears your influences on your sleeve.
That was the intention.
I saw
we went Tarantino on this one.
I saw a lot of Kubrick in
Okay.
it. I felt like very Kubrick, maybe a little David Fincher-ish in some of the shots. In terms of he's not a handheld guy either.
Yeah.
He's very much like motion control. But
Yeah.
the first one that gobsmacked me, like the one that kind of hit me between the eyes, was like, oh, this guy likes Stanley Kubrick a lot.
Which shot? I'm curious.
There was-
because I know tonally that was going for Kubrick.
There was a couple of
not-
straightforward, and I don't exactly remember what part of the film, but there was a couple of straightforward push-in shots that were like your subjects like in the middle of the frame, and like Kubrick was one of these guys who he put the crosshairs right on the middle,
Yeah.
and he would middle frame things. He would
Yes.
frame things in the very middle of the
all of it.
and it would be like, look at this,
Yes.
a very much in your face,
Okay.
nothing angled, like for instance, the shot of Jack Torrance in the snow at the end of The Shining,
Yeah.
is dead on,
dead
man.
on.
He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
bam, like dead guy, boom, right,
I can
right
tell you.
here.
I can tell you this though. This is going to sound crazy, but I was thinking Wes Anderson for that.
He does the same thing. He is
Yeah,
very
for
much.
some reason, I didn't associate it with Kubrick because in my mind, I had already said, all right, Kubrick's the tone influence.
Right.
Don't take anything. We're getting a lot of. Can I swear?
Yeah.
We're getting shit for that choice, and that's okay. I mean, some people don't like it, some people do, but all of Kubrick's films were. You don't hear every word because that classical music is going.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to. He wants you to feel something. And that's going to remove you from the characters, but that's the intention. Clockwork
Right.
Orange is wall to wall classical music.
2001 is the same thing.
2001, yeah. So Eyes Wide was not, but most of his other stuff is just wall to wall music, and so I guess psychologically I might have carried on.
But the Wes
carried over
Anderson
that look.
I don't know if Wes stole it from Kubrick, but yeah, he does that straight on framing, and he also does a lot of.
I've always been curious about that framing, and I guess I took it out
Yeah.
with him in mind instead of Kubrick this time.
But yeah, you see, like even on like Shining or something like that.
Yeah.
He told the camera operator to be like, dead on, put the thing
Yeah.
right in the center, and to the part where Gareth Brown, who operated the Steadicam, was like, Stanley, they don't print the crosshairs. Like nobody's going to see
Yeah.
if somebody's a millimeter off. But he was so exact about that.
Yeah.
and also just the subject matter and everything.
Having everything centered gave us the outer worldly satiric feel, I thought, and then it makes it lighter. That's a good one to use if you're doing more comedic stuff.
What were some of the challenges that you faced trying to get this thing made?
This is going to be heavy, so let's go there. One of the worst experiences that you can feel, and I can say that I would imagine the majority of your filmmakers, listeners, will relate to this. One of the loneliest things that you can ever experience is when you're making a movie, is when you look up and outside the actors who are also having a blast, you're the only one having fun.
Did you feel like
That there were days like that.
Yeah. Because you're trying to, you're trying to. How long is this movie?
Sometimes I'm having a blast. You can see the camera whip.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Some of those montages. I'm coming to work like this is going to be so much fun. I know none of you have this on your reels because I don't have mine. This is
Right.
our opportunity to have these looks. Isn't this fun? Isn't this great? And it's like, when's lunch? Okay.
Well, because everybody is working their asses off.
They're getting paid
to try to get that.
Okay, we got paid. Our pay's taken care of. Our travel reimbursement's taken care of. Our food's taken care of. Can we relax and have some fun? Okay,
I always feel like
and that's not the case. And
Yeah.
that is maddening.
the I think one of the challenges though is like when you're doing that stuff or when you're challenging people, to try to get that feel on set where everybody's relaxed enough to do their thing.
Yes.
But still have the pressure of like, we gotta make
gotta
this
get the
day.
day, yeah.
We gotta make this day, or we don't have the movie, and I can't afford the overage.
I have to say though, there were
you know.
days that happened. As we went along, there was this really relaxed. If one thing that I do, I create a relaxed set. If there's one thing I do that I know, it's very family and fun and relaxed, even when it's intense. So I think that tonally we did that, and I did create that, and I think with help from David, my producing partner, we helped do that. But there were some days that were, it was a little tense, and I don't know if it was the setups or people were nervous. That said, eventually there were some days that we had the right combination of crew, and it was more harmonious. Or the later we got down in the shoot, it just okay.
When we did the Q&A, when I saw the Q&A at the premiere, everybody was talking about they felt like they had enough freedom, and you gave people like a space to create and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's my move, is to let it come from them and try to stay out of their way. And that's learned behavior. That's learning what the greats did. I heard people say it, and I thought it sounded great to try. And if it works, I would use it, and it works.
And casting is 80% of the battle, right there.
I'd say 90.
Yeah, if you get the right people, you're going to have such a much better time.
That's a fact. If casting is 90% of directing. The other 10%, just keep an eye on them, watch them. Don't watch your monitor all the time. Watch them, have fun, and remind them to conserve their energy. And if they have a question, be there to answer it.
I got to wrap up in a little bit here, but in terms of the distribution for the movie, because that's another big challenge people want to know about. You guys have actually gotten this into some theaters.
Yeah,
and
what 4 different cities so far.
And like, how were you able to do that? How did that work? How was that system?
That's a distributor's job.
Okay,
that's a distributor's job. Anarchy is controlling our our North American rights. Their job is to pay the P&A cost to get it in theaters, and all of that. But it's expensive, time consuming, and very, very difficult. So that there's no tried and true method.
Right. Do you find that for this particular film, though, that's the right way to go, and that's been the right way to get attention for the film? Because you guys gotten quite a few write-ups.
A lot of attention for the film in terms
for
of...
an indie film,
like
I'm seeing a lot of write-ups about it, which is tremendous.
So what we did is did you ever see a movie called Coherence?
I haven't seen it.
All right, that's we were talking off camera before we started. I know what you're looking for. Watch that movie.
Okay.
$50,000. 7 theaters. 7 cities. Same, and we designed the release strategy after Coherence. Coherence opened in 7 cities. They made a nice amount of money in those theaters before the VOD, and then VOD came sort of towards the tail end of their theatrical. They did 7 cities. They got carried over once, just like we did. We opened in L.A. On March 1st at one screen in LA, and we did so well that opening weekend they extended it another week, and then we traveled to Baltimore, then it went to Nashville. So we sort of patterned it after Coherence and sort of the way that they rolled it out, which is a rare thing. Usually most independent films these days do day and date. But we wanted to sort of just make it available only theatrically at first.
And you guys traveled with the film too, like you went to cities and appeared and did Q&As and stuff like that.
And you know who we got that from? We got that from Coherence.
Well, okay.
What we noticed, guys, if you're going to do this or plan a theatrical, you can get theatrical yourself. It's just going to be it's going to be very expensive. So in that case, you want to probably try to find a distributor to do that. But what we did, a part of our marketing plan that we saw that they did is they had a cast and crew member after every evening showing. So the 7 o'clock show on Friday and the 7 o'clock show on Saturday, you could usually find the director there afterwards to do Q&A in the cast.
I know
did that.
Kevin Smith has been doing that with his films too. It's like a Kevin Smith roadshow.
Roadshow.
He goes out and talks about the film because people will go there to see him.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're an indie sci-fi geek or you're like really into that,
Yeah.
you'll go see your movies just because you know what, Princeton's going to be there. I can ask him a question
Yeah, ask the
afterward.
questions right there.
You know,
Yeah.
and see the proof in the pudding. See what the film is like on a big screen.
Sure.
And check out that
I
model.
gotta say, our best nights, our best performing days theatrically were the nights that we showed up for Q&A.
It makes it special. It makes it different than just going to see a movie. You know,
Yeah.
like it enhances the theatrical
I
experience.
say Nashville. When David went to Nashville, and that was a strong turn. I think almost half for just one, that opening night was pretty impressive for us. And then you know, throughout. So sometimes you show up, that'll be potentially sometimes your best night.
I got to get rolling here, but do you have any upcoming projects that you want to talk about? Like anything that's coming out next?
Just 2050.
Okay.
Look out for 2050. We're in mid theatrical right now, so we're working on finding out where our next places to show up are theatrically. But you can follow us on 2050.com. 2050movie.com. 2050 across all 2050 movie across all the socials. 2050movie.com. There's a site. There's a link on the site that lets you know which city it's at, etc.
Excellent. And where can people find you if they want to know more about you? Do you have a website?
I don't have a website. They can find me on Twitter
Okay. What's your Twitter handle?
at Princeton Holt.
At Princeton Holt. So if you want to ask him questions after this, at Princeton
Holla at
Holt.
me.
So anyway, I'm going to wrap up. But thanks for coming, man. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me, Jason.
And thank you all for joining us. For more episodes of this show, you can always find them on our website, norestoftheweekendpodcast.com. You can also subscribe on all the major podcast channels, Stitcher, Apple, iTunes, whatever. And please, be sure to like and rate and share and get the word out if you like this show. We really appreciate it. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Princeton Holt.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And I'm Jason Godbey for Behind the Rabbit Productions. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.